You filming me? All right, here, let me do a little acting here. Okay, so this is the Tarman. I definitely get asked, other than Myers masks, to do this one more than any other Trick or Treat Studios mask. So this guy came with hair on him, and I'm gonna take it off before I paint it, and I might just save it to put it back on, or I have some other hair I could put on it. I'm gonna try to just make this like as simple as possible. I'm just gonna do a rub out technique with black. I mostly just wanna darken it. I'm gonna start by doing the black rub out, and then I'll probably go in with some just black airbrush stuff too to just darken them up before I do the gloss finish, and then I'm gonna re-epoxy the eyes and teeth if need be, which once I do the finish on top, they'll be probably about the same amount of gloss as the rest of the head, but I want them to look wet, so I'm probably gonna re-epoxy them. I got a lot of comments. I know I've said it before in other videos, but a lot of times I get comments what kind of ink I use. Unfortunately, we don't sell it at Nightmare Toys because I don't really know how to get a wholesale account. Maybe eventually we will, but it's FW ink. That's the ink that I use for pretty much everything, unless I like really can't find a color that I want. This is 70% isopropyl alcohol, and then what I mean by the mixture is you want like 30% of the ink and then like 70% of the alcohol. It doesn't have to be exact. That's just the general idea. And you can, this is pretty much the only way that you're gonna mess up the rub out is if you make it too thick. If you make it too thick, then it's going to be really hard to rub off, basically. Especially, it might be a little easier on this one because there's a finish on top of this mask, which can also create some problems, I guess, I've had in the past. So we'll see if that happens, and if it does, then I'll try to fix it. But also, if it's too thin, it's not going to do what you want it to, and it's just all going to run out, and it'll literally just drip everywhere, and you'll have to do it again, and you know. So, but the main thing is to try to not make it too thick. And I don't need a whole bunch. I think I might put a couple more drops in there. This video is mostly just about this rub out technique because I'm not really doing much else to this mask. So I just kind of push it up on the walls and kind of watch how it falls down. It looks a little bit thick to me. Yeah, so that's pretty good. You see how it'll end up being about here. So it'll stick, and then it'll kind of just like slowly get lighter, but it's sticking. It's not just all running back down. The rub out itself needs to be 70% alcohol as well. And again, just a little bit. I don't want to waste alcohol, and I don't want it to be soaking wet either. So this first one, I'm gonna kind of just like wring out. Yeah, this is like damp now, you know, like it's not soaking wet, it's just damp. So I'm not gonna be like dripping much water from it or anything. So that's kind of how you want that to be when you do it. So when you're spraying this on, you want to be pretty quick with it because you don't want it to dry too much, but I like to kind of start in a little bit less important spot. You really want to spray it into the details. I won't do it too much on the top of the head because it should be kind of red, but I will at least get it a little bit because I want to darken the entire mask up as a whole, but most of this will get rubbed off. So you don't have to rush like too crazy. He's still glossy in some spots, but he's also like pretty dry in other spots. So I do want to get started. You can let this thing like dry completely, and a lot of times it'll work, but I have had like issues where it doesn't want to come off, and sometimes it can be a little frustrating, but the good thing is you can always just repaint it. Yeah, I'm already liking that a lot better. You can see it just really like fills in those details. You can see the sculpture a lot better in my opinion when you get the dark color in those deep spots. When you put it in the light though, you can see like especially if you look at it from down here, it does have just a nice little red glow on top. I definitely didn't want it to be as bright as it was, so it's not all is lost or anything. I'm pretty happy with how the rub out turned out. As I said, I'm gonna go in with the Q-tip. You can see here the eyes still have the ink, but I didn't want to go in there with the sponge because then it's going to get rid of the black that's under there, and I want to keep the black under the brow there and in the deep spots. And I'm going to go in, I'll start with the teeth. See, like you can see here where there's a lot of black there, but I can kind of push my finger under it. You can always like go back in just little spots where you want to bring out the lighter color a little bit more. I'm going to really refrain from making this too runny and then dripping into the cracks because it'll erase that black and I'll have to do this whole process over again. Sometimes, like if you base it the way that I usually do, if you base it with the latex paint and then do this like the same day, you do run the risk of taking some of that base latex paint off. I'm putting this on top of a sealed mask and then I'm going to seal it again. So it's not really, you're not really running the risk of wiping this paint off at all, because especially on the eyeball, I mean, there's like a layer of glue there to make it shiny. The next thing I'm going to do is just seal the mask with this Liquitex gloss medium. It's pretty thick, so I put a decent amount of water in it. Really hope I don't ruin this thing. You can see here where I definitely went too heavy. You don't want that to happen. Again, back of the head, so I'm gonna get away with it. Put a fan on it. I don't want to like put a bunch of heat on it or anything. I don't want to like expedite the process too much or speed it up too much. So it definitely dried translucent. Even those dots I can tell are going to be translucent. They're not quite there yet. But it dried translucent, but it's not as glossy as I want it to be. So I'm just going to give it another coat. And then also it should be said, like this is just what I had around the shop, gloss medium and varnish, but they make a high gloss version of this and they make a version that doesn't say the word varnish. Smart people that are watching this, comment and let me know what varnish means and what the difference between varnish and one that just says gloss medium is. He's finally glossy enough. As I said, the biggest mistake I made, I think, was diluting the finish too much, the medium gloss and varnish. The third coat, I didn't dilute it very much and it went on a lot better, a lot smoother. It didn't run into the cracks and stuff like that. I don't think I'm gonna put hair on it. I know I said that I was going to. I kind of just really like the way he looks without hair. I didn't look at reference or anything, pictures. I'm not sure if he has hair in the movie or not. I'm assuming he does since Tots put the hair on there. I've shown you before, this is the DevCon 5-minute epoxy clear. And we're gonna mix that up and brush it on with an acid brush. These things I just use, like, I use it for the epoxy. You can see I did some epoxy right there. There's paint and stuff all over it. I just like to have a plastic surface so I'm not getting all this gunk and all that. Once you get the epoxy on here, I mean, you're ruining your brush. I think there are ways you can maybe get it off with like acetone or something like that. I don't really know. I've heard that you can. I've never tried it because this brush is so cheap. Like they're worth like less than a quarter. They're just really cheap. And so I'd rather just use this and then throw it away. So I just cut it at like a basic, just like little angle like that. You mix this 1-to-1. You want to mix this up pretty good. Obviously you need to move quick. It can take a really long time to set up, and then obviously if you've hardly mixed it, it'll never set up. That'll do it. That's all I'm doing for this. This has got to be the easiest paint job I've ever done on a mask. Usually I like to start with a whole base, a brand new base, and start over from scratch. But for this one, like, I just wanted him to be darker. I wanted to get rid of most of the red, and I wanted him to be shiny. And it ultimately came out pretty good, and I'm really happy with it. All right, that's gonna do it for the Tarman repaint. It's really not much of a repaint. I didn't really do much at all to this. It's the simplest like mask rehaul or whatever you want to call it that I've done. Basically what I did, I just took the hair off, I did a black rub out, and then I gave it a gloss finish, and that's really all I did. And I'm really happy with how it turned out, and hopefully you are too. I'll see you next week for another Mask Monday.